only on the ecumenical matter.
Hello and welcome to Ecumenical Matters, the Father Ted podcast. We're up to episode 14 today. We're discussing season 2, episode 8, cigarettes and alcohol and rollerblading. I'm here with Eamonn Turbett, a Father Ted fan all his life, and he's here to join us to discuss his Lenten campaigns and the giving up of the desires and the addictions. What would you call it? The temptations that we have in our society. But first, I want to give a quick shout out to the congregation, and this one's going all the way out to Atlanta, Georgia. Would you believe? I've had a.
Well, you just said it, so I believe you.
Oh well, there you go then. So I just made that up. No, it was a listener got in touch with me on Reddit. Darth Queeg is his username. I don't know how to pronounce that properly or what it's in reference to. Apart from the Darth is Star Wars something surely, or Star Wars, Star Trek. I keep getting them mixed up.
It's definitely Wars.
In Wars, right? And he suggested we should take the podcast to DragonCon, which is a... You've
just lost half your viewership now.
Well, exactly. I was just thinking of that. I might have to cut that out. Considering he invited us to DragonCon, which is a sci-fi and general pop culture convention in Atlanta, which was actually in Atlanta.
Is he paying for the tickets, or...?
Well, I did look at the tickets. They weren't actually that expensive. It's only about £380.
That's
for
reasonable.
Mid-September return, like.
Very reasonable.
Yeah. But unfortunately, the registration for DragonCon is already closed. But DragonCon 2017 is on. I'll just have to find a way of really elongating the podcast to keep going that long. I have actually been thinking of doing...
You take a year sabbatical.
Well, I could do that, yeah, between season 2 and 3. I was actually thinking of doing carrying on with Black Books and
the whole
IT crowd.
Lenihan series.
Yeah, and maybe even Big Train, because Big Train sort of lost in his career back catalogue, even though it's probably one of the best sketch shows of all time.
Definitely up there. Definitely up there.
But we'll discuss it and we'll come back to you at the end. But DragonCon 27.
After our staring contest, obviously.
Oh yes, yeah, the Staring Championships.
Yeah.
So this episode, the title. Now I've been discussing on the podcast the titles of Father Ted episodes in the first season especially were very nondescript and actually quite confusing. This one, cigarettes and alcohol and rollerblading, was actually pretty descriptive because that's what they were all going off for Lent. And also, of course, it has the play on words on the classic Oasis song, Cigarettes and Alcohol. Do you remember that song, Eamonn?
I do, vaguely. I don't remember the tune of it, but I remember some words from it.
Is it my imagination that all I find is cigarettes and alcohol? Basically, it's about
something about like life not being worth living for, and all you need is cigarettes and alcohol.
Exactly, yeah. So the 9 to 5 shitty work that you have to do just to get your cigarettes, alcohol, and booze it up at the weekends. Stone Cold classic of Britpop, and
one of the Oasis songs that holds up.
Exactly. Well, one of the many. One of the about 50 or 60 Oasis songs that hold up.
I don't know.
That was a conversation I'll have on my music podcast when I launch it. But it's 1/12 of one of the greatest debut. Well, probably the 5 greatest debut albums of all time. Definitely, maybe. So it's definitely got in the head of Graham Linehan anyway, because he decided to name his episode after it. But we'll get to
the second mention of Oasis.
Yes, after of course which do you prefer?
Yeah,
Oasis or Blur?
Oasis.
We had a good discussion about that in the Father Demo episode, and in the long term, has your opinion changed between Oasis and Blur?
No, I think it's still Oasis.
Yeah, for me it's still Oasis, but a lot of people I know have crossed the divide.
No,
because Blur kept sort of pushing stuff on, whereas Oasis was being held back mostly by Liam, just wanting to do.
Singing?
Yeah. Well, I wanted to sing it, exactly.
And then started writing?
Well, he didn't try to write, he just sort of tried to channel John Lennon's cheesier phase through his songwriting.
The last album, I can't even remember what the name of it was, but like half the album's his songs, and it's fucking terrible.
Well, it was the only Oasis album I didn't actually buy, so I haven't actually heard any of the deep cuts on it. But yeah, we'll get right into it then. So this episode, it opens up with a very iconographic. There's a word. There's a mouthful for you. Iconographic image of Ted carrying a cross.
Someone carrying a cross.
Well, someone carrying a cross, which it reveals to be Ted in the when the silhouette becomes clear. It's a very it's an image that reminds you of the Stations of the Cross. Remember the pictures used to be up around the walls of the chapel? And yeah.
Those graphic images up around the church walls.
Graphic images of cold-blooded executions.
Yeah.
But the Stations of the Cross now, from what I gather from history and stuff, is that Jesus wouldn't have carried the whole cross. He would have just carried the sort of the base of it, or not the base of it, the sort of the long end of it.
Yeah. Well, you see in movies the odd time that he's got like the horizontal bit strapped to his arms, and he's sort of carrying that, and then
that's then attached to
to
the big bit. So the fact that what would you call it, the perpendicular came down and hit Ted in the head, sort of ruining his moment, wouldn't actually be that inaccurate. Mrs Doyle then he comes in with nursing his sore head, and Mrs Doyle is humming. Now she has insulted Ted's screaming before, or Ted's singing before. And I don't think she's in any position to at all. Because that is a horrible screech she's got, trying to be melodic.
Well, she's in cleaning the windows, isn't she?
Cleaning the windows, yeah, so she's doing one of her, about the housework, so clearly...
She's doing one of her falls yet again.
Well, I was going to say one of her falls, it's actually the first time she's done that sort of fall, so this is going to be a joke that'll be coming back in the next few episodes.
Recurring?
Yes, yeah, and it'll...
My question is, if she struggles to get up, or if she struggles to get down, how did she get up in the first place?
Well, see, getting up's easier because you just climb up. Maybe she used a chair or whatever, but she just climbs up.
There's no chair beside the window.
So she just would have climbed up, but then, do you know when you're a bit uneasy about getting down off something, because you're not entirely sure how far down it actually is? Like, do you give it a full jump, or do you try and just like ease your...
You don't fall head first.
Yeah. Well, clearly she was planning to like just, ease her front leg down.
Yeah.
And before she could actually, make a decision either way, she'd already lost balance and was...
By the way, she's doing a terrible job cleaning those windows.
Well, we'll find out in the first episode of Series 3 that those windows are very hard to clean. And as it turns out later in the episode, it doesn't really matter anyway, because they're going to get that window replaced.
Yeah.
Because Jack now, this is actually going to be a new feature, is the window to your soul. The amount of times people go through that window. This is now the third time we've counted already in the series. So Jack, whenever he realised he was in the company of a nun again, very quickly scarpered out that window. And
so there's some happy glaziers on Craggy Island.
Oh yeah.
Making a fortune just.
The Craggy Island glass. Well, there's no sand in Craggy Island. I was about to say they can make their own, but there isn't any sand in Craggy Island, is there? It seems to be all like there's no beach.
I can't remember the overhead shot of the island, so...
Well, we know there's the cliffs.
Yeah.
And the overhead shot just seems to be greenery hitting water, so there's no divide there. And then when Ted goes to the picnic area...
There's no sand there.
There's no sand there, it's all stone. So they're going to have to import... They're probably the biggest import industry. Is bread for Mrs Doyle's sandwiches and glass for Craggy Island parochial house window.
Yeah.
But
not the English papers.
And well, not the English papers, of course. And we have a Meet the Maker, and a Meet the Maker is where we spot either Arthur Matthews or Graham Linehan. Mm-hmm. Did you spot him?
I did, yes.
Where was he?
He walked past the cross and said, "Some madman's put up a cross."
Well, Ted was a bit worried that perhaps it might be misconstrued. It could be misconstrued even worse, having a big cross in your front yard.
Well, as long as it's not burning, you're fine.
So he's just a madman, he's not a fucking racist madman. That'll not be till season 3, as we say. Oh yes, and then they get a call from our old favourites from Rugged Island, Dick Byrne, who wants to make Ted aware of some of the sacrifices they need to make at this time of year as we enter our Lord's sacrificial time. So he feels a call from Dick Byrne, and he actually gets a zinger back at Dick Byrne for the first time.
He's very smug with himself as well.
He really enjoyed getting that zinger in. When Dick asks him, sorry, what are you giving? Dick says, "Are you giving anything up?" And Ted says, "What are you giving up? Being the biggest aegis of the priesthood." But Dick, he's a real
Dick.
He's a real smarmy arsehole as well, though, isn't he? Like, because when he starts saying, "No, we have to be really pious. We have to be really serious about this. It's a very serious time of year." Like, you can see he's just fucking loving, just indulging that fucking that manipulation that he's.
Yeah.
That he's
then you can see the guilt on Dermot's face.
Exactly. Yeah. Right.
Sorry, Father Ted's face.
Yeah. We'll and so they decide then under the provocation of Dick Byrne that they're going to give up their Lenten campaigns. Well, their Lenten campaign is to give up cigarettes, alcohol, and rollerblading by Ted, Jack, and Dougal, respectively. Who do you think is the hardest job out of those three? You would say?
I would say definitely Jack.
Jack coming off the drink is quite a difficult one. But over the course of the episode, he seems to be the one having the easiest time staying off the booze.
I suppose once you get it out of your system.
Yeah, then you don't need to go back to it.
Yeah.
Unless you have to face.
He's just constantly just topping up. So he was
just never letting the sobriety sort of rear its ugly head.
Yeah.
During that
hangover. just stay away from the hangover.
But yeah, you think that Jack would have the hardest time, but he's not.
I suppose the cigarettes as well are actually addictive.
Well, yeah, they're more addicted than heroin, so I've been told. I've read that somewhere. But Sister Assumpta doesn't pay him much attention, so he seems to be doing alright for himself.
I think she's afraid of him more than anything.
Well, that probably has a lot to do with it, and the fact that Ted has hidden his stash very, very effectively.
Do we find out where he goes after he goes out the window? Is that the last time we see him in the episode, apart from the last shot? Yeah,
it seems to be. Yeah, until he comes back with his four optics of booze. Sorry, 5 optics of whiskey. And since we brought that up, I will just open the drinks cabinet and put into the entry. There was a bottle of Powers, which has already been in there a few times. Yeah. You ever had Powers?
In hot whiskies only.
So is that like the sort of entry level whiskey, just for
the shit whiskey that they put into the
hot stuff?
Well, Paddy. I've never had Paddy either, and it looks like
there was Paddy's up there.
Yeah.
But I haven't seen any of those bottles for fucking years now.
The Paddy's bottles. The Paddy's bottles.
Well, the Powers or Paddy's. Not even an off license or something.
There's definitely a poster up last night when I was out drinking
of
a Powers bottle with a hot whiskey recipe beside it.
Was there a current poster, as in had some marketing company put it up in the last few weeks, or was it one that was sort of an antique?
No, it looked new. It still had a bit of shine on it. But
so Diageo are trying to jump into another profit making exercise with it? Is there
it seems to be the go-to hot whiskey.
Well, we're not hospice. We're nowhere near hot whiskey season. Like.
No, we're not.
We're in the tail end of July at this point.
But Ireland's always hot whiskey.
Well,
weather.
Well, I mean, I'm looking out. There's sunshine.
Yeah, there is actually sun. Yeah.
But
I take that back. I was wrong.
But when we started the episode here, it was teeming with rain, so you just never know what you're going to get with these crazy things. But there was Powers, there was Smirnoff, which I haven't actually seen Jack drink yet, or vodka of any sort.
Yeah, he doesn't seem like a vodka man.
He doesn't. Gin, it was the cork dry gin.
Mm-hmm.
I do remember the old CDG bottles. They were always very iconic. There was Powers Gold Label, and then there was. Now, we discussed this, we couldn't actually figure out what the label on the bottle was, but it looks like a black label ruby port of some kind.
We paused it and everything.
Yeah.
No reading that.
Bloody all four with their standard deaf output. It's the second time I've had to chastise you all four. Come on, get your act together.
Well, it originally came out in VHS, so can you imagine trying to pause that and see what it was?
Well, the two big lines.
Yeah, and the screen shaking.
Yeah, the Dear Departed VHS now. Did you see that? So I bet you the ones that Ted and Dougal got in the house are probably still working.
So is that just single VHS players? Because you can get like VHS players with a DVD player built in, so that you can like transfer your tapes over.
I don't know. I didn't look into it that much. I just know they're not manufacturing VHS. I think it might be all VHS players.
Yeah.
Because that would be the. Well, did you know they only stopped manufacturing Betamax tapes 6 months ago? So like you thought VHS had won the war? No, they barely won the battle.
6 months. That's all it took.
Yeah.
They were just waiting for Betamax to stop, and then they were like,
finally, Jesus Christ, lads, we've been holding on to this for years.
We've bankrupted ourselves.
Just to get the last laugh. Fucking hell. But yeah, I don't know, I was a bit upset to hear that VHS is going out of the way because
you might want to buy one soon.
Well,
it might do the old record player and come back with hipsters in about 20 years time.
I think it's already started because I posted it. I saw it on Twitter on some like random website like Boing Boing or something.
Is that a porno website? Or?
No, it's not actually. It's a
Mr. Skin.
It's an American sort of tech website. But funny that your mind should go there. And this is Sunday as well.
Bunga.com.
boingboing.net. So but I don't even think that was the website actually. After all that, I was just giving them free advertising. It wasn't even the right website. But anyway, so I posted it on Twitter, and then I posted how Dougal's one's probably still working, and then the next day, every friggin' website I went onto, there was a late lament to VHS makers. So it's already happening. You'd be like, oh, it looks better. you don't get the hipsters starting that night.
Yeah, actors look more attractive when you couldn't see their face properly.
Yeah. All I needed was 4 dots. But no, the VHS players, like I've at home in Oma, I've got a bookcase, 3 shelves of bookcases.
0 books.
0 books, all VHS tapes, 2 tapes deep, by the way, on each shelf, and each tape has 3 films recorded onto them. So that's my fucking movie collection.
Illegally?
No, off the TV. So we set the Video Plus. Remember having to set the Video Plus with the code.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What's the legality on recording from the TV?
Well, it went to court, and I think it was JVC. Well, I think it was like about cassette players. I think I mentioned this somebody before. The JVC were being sued because they were putting recordable functions on cassette tapes, like audio cassette tapes, and they said, well, you can't blame us for people using the technology incorrectly. That'd be like suing the rope industry for people using it to strangle people. That was their get around, but it sort of meant it was unofficially illegal then, or unofficially legal because it wasn't illegal, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
So nothing's illegal until there's a definite point at which you say it's illegal. So the statement has to be made.
So at one stage murder was legal until somebody
made until somebody passed a law decreeing it. That's the development of society, is when somebody has to decide, right, what's the rules we're going to live by here. And so when we can get into a whole society, that'll be another podcast.
That would be an ecumenical matter.
Yeah, that'll be episode 15 or something. But yeah, dearly departed VHSs, eh? We'll never see you like.
No, I remember my first VHS was RoboCop.
What age were you when you were watching RoboCop?
Too young.
Yeah, exactly.
Far too young. It was in 18, I think, and I don't think I'd reached my teens. When was it out?
88 or something? Well, it would have been VHS.
Out in VHS, yeah. I'd say it was about 10 or 11, around that age.
Yes, and you were watching, like, it was excessively violent, those 80s films. They were excessive.
Yeah. It was an 18. It was. Yeah. I don't even think it would be an 18 now, it just wouldn't be allowed.
18X or something. Yeah. But one last thing on the Meet the Maker. It's 5-2 now to Arthur, so this is Graham's second appearance. Do you reckon he'll claw back? It'll have to be some crazy scoreline like Arsenal Newcastle.
I don't think so. They both appear in the airplane episode, don't they? They
do, yes. And apart from that, I'm struggling to think when else they do.
I'm struggling to remember season 3 at all.
Well, it's been a while since I've watched it, so I will be keeping an eye out. I think it shows up in the Victor Meldrew episode, but I'll need confirmation on that. And there's a few other episodes where there's just a crowded priest, and they'll probably be just making up numbers in the background somewhere. But we'll be keeping
saving on those extras costs.
Yeah, well, that was it. I mean, that's £70 a day out of your budget, plus food, plus transport.
Yeah, and you think about all those bottles of whiskey that they had to buy to.
Yeah. You know what the extras getting a hold of them?
In the cliffs of Moher, is that where?
Yeah, I think
it's supposed to be the island, but it's actually the stock footage of the cliffs of Moher.
That's where the Holy Stone formerly resided.
Yeah. I love their stock footage bits. Where they're like looking out the window and there's like a herd of buffalo.
Well, yeah, because I was saying that was like the very first instance that I can think of cutaway humour.
Yeah.
Which of course Family Guy made a name of himself for. I mean, The Simpsons early seasons did it as well, where they would just sort of cut away to a memory or something. But that was a very this was a bit more inorganic in that it was quite obviously a cutaway that didn't actually exist.
Mm-hmm.
It was a sort of exists in a parallel universe from them. So I
was looking out the window with the binoculars and
you can see ants.
Yeah.
Close up and stuff. So when Ted's talking to Dick and Dick says, and God bless you, Ted. Ted really has to struggle. He has to dig deep to find the will to say God bless you back.
But he does it. He manages it.
Well,
God bless you.
Well, clearly Ted is the man of faith in the series, so...
I don't know.
Well, he clearly believes. I don't think that's under question.
Yeah, I think he believes in God, but I don't think he's a priest because he's overtly religious. I think he's a priest due to the fact it's a job.
Well,
it's a job to do.
We found out in the Father Stone episode the reason he's a priest is because his other brother was a doctor. So he had to be a priest. But yeah, no.
He always has aspirations or dreams of something else. Like his dreams different, but I suppose they do involve him still being a priest because he's still wearing the dog collar in his imaginations. But
I mean, see, you can be a rock and roll priest. It's just all that. It's just all them freaking rules preventing it. But sure, what rock and roll is breaking the rules, Ted? Come on, live. But yeah, so he really has to invoke every ounce of his being to get our Lord to bless Dick. So, but see, Ted is the better man, even though it's much easier for Dick to actually get the words out. But Dougal's very frustrated that, of course, he'll have to give up his rollerblading. Easter's miles away, Ted. Oh, do you remember that? Having to give up stuff for Lent and fucking...
Vaguely remember?
Well, I remember, I never gave up stuff. Stuff was given up for me.
You were told?
Yeah. You're not in sweets anymore, James.
Well, that's what it was. It was always... You'd give up crisps or chocolate or something like that there. There was never any religious aspect to it. It was...
Yeah, it was just you did it because you thought you were supposed to.
Yeah.
And, if you broke Lent, geez, that was the worst thing ever. You broke Lent? It's not even Patrick's Day yet?
I remember, like, in later years, in my religious days, air quotes there, that it turned to, you'd start going to Mass more.
Oh, shit, yeah. And then
so you'd end, what I would end up doing is going to Mass, seeing who was saying Mass, and then leaving, hang about the town about 45 minutes, and then walk home again. And then my mother would be like, "Oh, so who was saying Mass?" And then you tell them who was saying Mass, and you'd be like, yes.
You have to get out clause, because that was always the test question. So who was saying Mass? But the thing was, it was only ever one of two priests, either the Catholic curate or the parish priest. So you had a 50-50 chance anyway.
In Oma, there was more than two.
Really?
Yeah.
I suppose Oma's a big parish, I suppose.
Yeah.
So like, how many priests were there?
From my memory, there was at least three. But then they kept rotating them as well.
Well,
there'd be ones leaving and new ones coming in, and
so there's always just like, was Oma just like the first port of call after they got out of the seminary or something?
I think
the seminary even.
I don't know if it was the first port of call because it's a big parish. Like it'd be a prestige sort of job.
Yeah, that'd be the one you're halfway to the bishophood if you get parish priest in there. Was it?
Yeah.
I was about to say Oma's a different diocese in Fitna, isn't it? Because Fitna was Clogher Valley. And Oma is something else, isn't it?
What bishop in terms of?
Yeah.
Like, was it Derry or something like that there?
Because they always, that's right, actually, yeah.
Yeah, they always mention the Bishop of Derry, so.
Well, that'd be it then. So, because even though I grew up 8 miles away from you, I was considered a different. I had a different bishop and everything, and the Clogher Valley stretched from one side of Donegal to fucking half the other way side of Armagh or something.
Yeah.
Yeah. So. They probably just had different ways of doing things in Oma. Fucking heathen bastard. And then, so they're always, Ted doesn't like the idea of having to lose in a giving things up competition. Cause that's all it meant, really. Giving things up competition. I used to have to give things up, as I said.
It's not the sacrifice of our Lord, which Dougal was trying to say to him. It's much more important than that.
And he really doesn't like losing. It's much more important is beating Dick Byrne, because there was a Scrabble fiasco. Now we've been keeping tabs of the board games we've been playing, and Scrabble is now entered into the board games room. But however he did it, he got to say, "Stupid priest, useless priest can't say Mass in Scrabble." Do you ever play Scrabble?
Not really, no.
I played the other night. I got 108 points in one turn, which I was quite proud of.
Did you say useless priests?
No, what I was about to say, it is very hard to manipulate, especially to that extent. So I think it's pretty obvious.
He was cheating.
I think he must have just had the pile just behind the chair or something.
He bought an extra board game so he could get more tiles.
Yeah. So he could get the right one.
Because you'd notice if there was that many tiles missing,
in
like
the bag.
yeah.
But it's fucking expensive though. Like it's like 30 quid a box for what is essentially a bit of cardboard with painted.
All board games are expensive though.
Yeah.
You're paying for the idea, not the actual pieces.
Well, it's all right. Like at least with Scrabble, you're likely to get your use out of it over the years. But when you get
but what you could also do is just play it online for free.
Yeah, no, but I do see. I play on my phone, but it's not the same as
having a board in front of you.
Yeah, well, seeing the person's face when you lay down 108 points.
You could put it up on the TV and play it that way. £30 is actually pretty reasonable for a board game.
Well, yeah, well that's what I'm saying. If it's something like Monopoly or Scrabble, you'll actually play a lot. But you get one of these board games.
What that I play?
well, yeah, the ones you play, you get good use out of them, like the Catan and stuff.
Yeah, and there's a Battlestar Galactica, which we have the 3 expansions for.
Oh fuck! and you don't even have Dungeons and Dragons. Like what is wrong?
So that's like 120 quid.
Oh holy fuck! But if you get a board game and it turns out to be a pile of shite, and you just throw it straight back in the cupboard and never look at it again, it feels like a very, very fucking wasteful 30 quid.
Well, I used to get board games. My mother used to buy board games at Christmas time for us to play.
And shift us up for
a couple hours. But never played any of them.
No,
it was like all the Monopoly ones, like you'll pull it out maybe once a year.
And
it just seems like an awful waste of money. But there's some board games that you bought, and honestly, I don't think the box was ever opened.
Yeah, I think there's 3 in our house as well. Actually, yeah. Jack doesn't like the idea of having to give up booze for our Lord. Arnold! Who's Arnold? Yeah, so Ted hides.
Well, Ted decides that Jack is giving up booze.
Well, that's a Lenten tradition. It gets decided for you. And he decides to hide Jack's booze in a very, very effective place to hiding place. You think, why didn't he rest his money there instead? And he'd be laughing all the way to the bank. You know what I mean? Well, no, he wouldn't. He'd be laughing all the way to his secret hiding cave.
I'd say if he used that too many times, so he'd probably be dead.
Well, the only people who have to worry about finding it would be the famous 5 or something. Like who visits Smuggler's Cove. Why is all this money resting in this priest?
Was resting for a long time.
Well, it's a good long rest. Yeah. I mean, the money cycle is very hard on the actual cash going through it. Like, you think you have a tenner in your pocket, you buy your newspaper or whatever, that tenner's then used, given change to the next person. They could be using it then to buy their cigarettes in another shop. They could then be using it, and within 2 hours that tenner's passed through 20 different hands.
Yeah.
It needs to rest every so often. That's all Ted's trying to do. But I think Arnold, who's Arnold, for me, and it does have a contender later on, is the line of the show. The other one would be when John and Mary show up.
Yeah.
And this is John and Mary's 4th appearance. I think it might be their final appearance, as far as I'm aware, because they got appeared.
Definitely my favourite of the side cast.
John and Mary.
Yeah.
Well, they showed up in the first 3 episodes in a row, and by the 3rd episode it was getting a bit tired. So then they showed up about 3 weeks ago, and now they showed up again.
Sporadically.
Yeah, so I think when they spread it out a bit more, it was a bit more effective. But this one, they come all the way down to Ted's house to offer him his Easter egg.
At a cost.
At least they didn't.
It comes to €8, I think. Or £8.
£8 as it
was back then, yeah.
Pre-EU.
But Ted gives them a note and doesn't get any change back.
Well, there's finder's fees and whatnot. I was about to say at least they didn't charge for delivery.
VAT.
Well, exactly, yeah. But Ted, they say they're going holiday to Rome. That's a bit of a. I imagine them two on an airplane. Better hope there's a priest involved so they can actually stay calm. Stay
civil, yeah. Well, they're going to Rome, so maybe there is.
Well, they might run into Ted's friend, Sophia Loren or something. The Pope. Sure, he's no friend of mine. So that was the contender for line of the show, and I'll let you actually have the deciding vote. That or Arnold. Who's Arnold? Arnold.
I'd have to go with the Pope line. It was more of a laugh out loud moment for me, I think.
Fair enough. It has been quoted a lot more in my personal experience.
Yeah.
And Arnold, who's Arnold, could be, well, you might think it's Hey Arnold or Arnold Schwarzenegger or.
Yeah.
You don't know who Arnold, who's Arnold? You don't know which one of them is you're giving up your booze for?
I always thought it was Ireland.
Ireland? Who's Ireland? Like that? You thought that's what he said?
Or Ardle.
I always thought it was Arnold. Arnold.
We should have had
the clip ready.
the captioning up.
Ah, yes. Do they even have captioning in all four?
I don't know.
The Paralympic broadcaster, they would need to have.
Oh.
Really stupid. And to think I was actually going to ask them for a sponsorship for the Black Weeks podcast.
Yeah, you should start a
petition. But yeah, so Ted gives up cigarettes, and I watched literally just last night. I watched an episode of King of the Hill from the first series where they give up cigarettes, and it's actually a brilliant portrayal of people just getting so fucking wound up because.
See, I've never understood this because I was a sporadic smoker for quite a few years, and the giving up process was pretty easy.
You just
I just stopped smoking. Yeah. I don't understand this addiction.
Well, some people do just drop it, like a day's notice or something, and they'll just stop smoking and that'll be it.
Yeah.
Some people have a real problem. See, half of it is what you do with your hands. Like, because you're so used to just reaching your pocket, picking out a cigarette and just...
Out of boredom, just?
Yeah, and just out of, fidgetiness and, and then it's like, oh shit, what am I doing now with my hands? Like, and you start fucking getting happy and...
like that, Talladega Nights, is it?
What is he doing there? In the Frankie Boyle show?
No, not the Frankie Boyle show, the race car show with Will Ferrell.
Oh, sorry, yes. What's the Frankie Boyle one?
Tramadol?
Tramadol Nights?
Something to do with Tramadol, yeah.
It's Tramadol Nights, I think, isn't it?
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah.
That's the drug of choice in Glasgow. But he's like won his first race and he's getting interviewed by the guy for the first time on TV, and he's like, so what do I do with my hands? No, it's okay, just keep them by your side. And during the interview his hands start coming up into shot. To start raising his hands, and you guy has to put his hands down for him. What do I do with my hands?
Just because you can't put them on the screen or whatever. But yeah, so the King of the Hill episode was also screened around 1997. So, and this episode would have been screened in April '96. So this was coming to the tail end of smoking being anyways acceptable.
Or mentioned on TV at all.
Yeah. Well, the King of the Hill episode had Bobby. Bobby is the young child in King of the Hill, and it opens with him smoking. He finds a discarded cigarette box with a cigarette in it, and him and his friend just have a cigarette, and shows him inhaling everything. And then Hank's punishment is to make him smoke an entire carton. Yeah, and
that reminds me of something that my aunt done to me.
What, did she find you smoking? Or?
Yeah, it was like as a child, I was younger than 10 anyway, and most of my family members smoked, and one of them had put a cigarette in an ashtray outside, and I picked it up and smoked it. And then she made me smoke a whole cigarette until I was sick.
And well, it sort of worked because you only smoked sporadically.
Yeah, true.
Well,
and I was able to give it up.
Yeah. Well, I don't smoke cigarettes. Hint, hint. But well, one time
420.
You don't do that. Fucking on the nose of Jesus. But the one time that I did have a cigarette was actually Marty. Who was in episode the Eurovision episode with us, episode 12. He offered me a cigarette when we were out drinking one time, and we were about 18 or something, and I had about 2 pints at this stage, and I took a drag of the cigarette. 2 pints. And I took one drag, and I instantly felt like I had about 10 pints in me. I instantly fell back and felt like, Jesus Christ, I'm fucking wasted right now.
I can vouch.
To go immediately home.
I can vouch for the hangovers the next day are worse having smoked with drink than
without.
Yeah.
What were you drinking with it? Because I've noticed hangovers are worse with ale than with lager, which is really, really annoying.
I'm not really a big... Well, I suppose I was drinking Smithwick's.
Oh, so there you go. See, whatever it is about the weight that needs to escape from your whole body and just sits there and makes you feel really heavy for like 2 days.
It's like giving birth. It's worse than giving birth.
Well, exactly.
From my personal experience.
Yeah, I've never given birth before that I didn't like. They go off on their vices, and within minutes they're already being into hallucinatory.
5 minutes.
Yeah.
5 minutes and Ted's got a sweat on.
I start imagining Dougal as a human-sized cigarette. Now, we have seen that portrayed a lot of times in different media, that when somebody's trying to go off something addictive.
When I seen that scene, I thought to myself, it's the giant roller blade. I thought, is that how they came up with the episode? They've got a giant rollerblade and props, and they thought to themselves, "Do you know what would work here?"
if we had the hallucinatory system, possibly. There's been a few big train sketches, I know for a fact, that just came out of stuff they found in the props department. One of them in particular was they had a horse's head, just a plastic horse's head, and they were playing Eric Clapton's Tonight, what is it called? Wonderful Tonight. And the horse is just putting on makeup in a mirror, in a stage mirror and everything, and doing the eyeliner and doing lipstick and everything. And then the camera just pans away and you hear a gunshot. And that was all from the DVD commentary. They were just saying, "Oh, we found this in the props yard," and we thought it's going to be really funny. So maybe if they were struggling to figure out what Dougal's vice was, because he's not a person who has vices, is he? He is genuinely such an innocent and genuinely good person. Childlike, if you will.
Yeah.
That he doesn't have any bad vices. So rollerblading, which isn't a vice at all, it's actually good exercise that Ted's depriving me of.
Yeah, true.
Because we know he doesn't get very much because he sleeps in at 11.
It's not the point that it's a vice, so it's something that he enjoys, that he has to give up for Lent.
Because none our Lord likes and seeing us suffer.
Exactly.
Yeah. So they're really struggling to get through their first night. And Mrs Doyle isn't on night duty tonight.
Yeah, I've seen that. Yeah, I noticed that.
So what's she been playing at? The one time when they need her, she's not there. So, but they all.
But she must be because we found out later she's going to St Patrick's Hill or whatever. Oh, yeah, she's off packing her bag, clearly.
Yes, she's getting her stuff ready for her pilgrimage. We'll speak about pilgrimage in a second, by the way. I do want to come back to that. But they all have independently come up with the idea of going out to this outhouse, which we've never seen before, and to indulge their own vices. Jack,
is it an outhouse or is it just a shed?
Well, it's a shed of some sort. Yeah, it's disconnected from the house outside, so it's outhouse.
But not an outhouse in terms of a lavatory.
It doesn't have a lavatorial facilities, I don't think. No, but it's probably where the shears are kept and stuff. All the power tools. Yeah. The outhouse. But Jack is about to swig from floor polish, and he doesn't actually do it. So I think officially it can't go in the cabinet. But he does come up with floor polish.
I have an issue with the floor polish though.
What's the issue?
Ted goes to get his cigarette from the bin. He staples it back together.
Yeah.
Genius bit of handiwork.
He MacGyver's a cigarette.
But earlier in the episode he put a bottle of whiskey in the bin.
Ah. So why didn't he just retrieve the whiskey?
Yes.
Because he wouldn't know when Ted would have been there. Because he's gone into the room and seen Jack.
So how would he have got to the kitchen though to get the floor polish?
Well, it's a very big house.
Yeah, I'm assuming that it's in the kitchen.
Well, it could have just been some.
Could have been in the shed.
In the shed.
Yeah.
Either. It could be just some storage room. But it is a very big house. One room's dedicated entirely to board games, as we've proselytized. One to power tools and one to floor polish. Oh, actually, because they bought shitloads of floor polish when Jack drank it. Do you remember when he died?
Oh, that's right, yes.
One that killed him. Floor polish. So floor polish can actually go in the drinks cabinet. I better just write that in now, actually. Yeah, so Ted was stapling his cigarette back together. Did a reasonably good job of it. Now, when I said I don't smoke cigarettes, I did say I smoked something else. Well, one time when I was a student, we were stuck for joint paraphernalia. We had the cigarettes and we had the weed. We had nothing else. So we got some newspaper, used that for paper and for rolling paper, and then we got stuck together with honey. and that was my attempt to roll a joint. It did actually work, in that we did manage to smoke some of it, but it was probably the worst MacGyvering of all time, I'd say.
In terms of it falling apart, or?
Well, no, you had to sort of hold it at the honey bit, and just the whole way down.
Did the honey add anything?
Well, no, the ink and the paper was probably poisoning us enough. Any beneficial effect the honey would have made to the flavour or health of the construction was completely hampered by the ink and the sheer quality of the paper. But we're going to look at Dougal's jumpers as well. He does have a few natty jumpers as well. He's got the one with diamonds all over, and then the nice V-neck. There's one later on where he's a knitted V-neck with a red and grey wool.
Yeah.
So they are actually I did say last week that I would make a point of trying to keep an eye on these. So they are actually going to town now with Dougal's jumpers, and in fact one of them gets mentioned when he was wearing his blue jumper.
Yeah.
So they were introduced to Sister Assumpta when we find out that they can't actually, they're going to need help to get through their Lenten promises.
Yeah. The next day they ring up
the
Matty Hislop's.
The Matty Hislop's nunnery,
which I've read is based on an actual person.
Who's the actual person?
Is an actual like drunk who like turned his life around through
self-flagellation.
Yeah, pretty much. Church and harming himself. I think some guy from Dublin, Matty Talbot or something like that.
That did something like that came up in the Google the Google
suggestions.
Google suggestions when I was googling it.
Yeah.
So it might be something like that. Matty Toll or something, or Matty. It's definitely T.
Some guy from Dublin.
And so
apparently he's big in America.
Well, I was about to say
they're trying to get him a sainthood.
Really?
Yeah.
Is he dead already?
Oh, he's dead a long time. He dropped dead in the street, and they found like chains wrapped around his legs and arms and.
Well, I was about to say they sound like an Opus Dei crowd.
Yeah.
With their, punishment is the cleanser.
Yep.
And
their 10 punishments.
Yeah.
Your daily punishment.
Your daily punishments, but he didn't want a 10, unfortunately. But he's in his facility, and when the nuns are in the on hold facility. There's a painting of him behind the nun.
With his hand in a toaster. I just noticed that for the first time when I was watching it.
And the painting's actually is christened the Matty Hislop.
Yeah.
So, yeah, he definitely went all the way then with the cleanser. Yeah, so, I mean, there is...
I don't think that was one of the 10 either.
It probably wasn't, no. But there is some elements of the Catholic, extremists. Like it's very popular in the Philippines apparently, self-flagellation, where
within the Catholic community.
I think so, yeah. I mean, Opus Dei is a Catholic organisation. This is a very, very extreme one.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, there was
I'm at the other extreme of the.
You're the other extreme.
The Catholic.
Did you still put it on your census?
When's the last time there was a census?
2011, I want to say. No, it wasn't even that long ago. It was about 2015 or something, isn't it?
I'd probably put non-religious down.
I would have done that as well. Wouldn't put Jedi or anything down.
No.
But
was that Australia they tried to do that?
I think there's a few countries where it is a listed option. Because in America, in some states in America it is. In America, you can put down any church.
Yeah, Scientology's a church over there. So.
Yeah, well, there's a United Church of Bacon, which is an atheist church.
Oh, it's all for tax breaks. So.
Yeah, that's the point the United Church of Bacon are trying to make. That we can just make a church of anything. And
well, do you watch John Oliver's show? He'd done that as well. He formed his own church.
Right.
And was looking for donations.
And what happened?
He got loads of donations in. So and then he had to shut it down because he was getting so much.
Because the money was resting too
well. He asked for some seed money. That's what it was. There's like evangelicals on TV asking for seed money. So basically, you give them money, and that's you planting the seed, and good things will happen to you.
Oh yes, I've heard of things like that. Yeah.
So there was one church where the guy had like a private jet. As he bought it as a church expense with money from donations people give him.
Fucking hell. Well, I mean that's what Martin Luther, not Martin Luther King, Martin Luther, the original. The
Lutheran.
Yeah, that's what he was protesting.
The original. The
OG.
Original
But that's what he was protesting against, was that you could buy your way into heaven if you give the Vatican a lot of money, because you had to pay like yearly gold taxes or something to the Vatican back in the 1600s or whatever it was. So this is it's come full circle again. It's now just pay money, buy your way into heaven, lads.
Yeah, pretty much.
And why does nobody see through this? Like, do you know what your money's better for? Buying stuff you like.
It's easier for the poor.
That if it goes to the church,
it's easier for the poor to get into heaven than the rich. Isn't that what Jesus said?
Then no, it's easier for a rich. It's easier for a camel to go through the eye of a needle than it is for a rich man to get into heaven.
Yeah. I was paraphrasing.
Yeah.
Paraphrasing Jesus, right?
Don't misquote JC. All right.
Jay-Z.
JC. Jay-Z's a different deity altogether. But the price range for Manica Stock Clinic is quite expensive. Now, you're an accountant, so I want you to come up with the figure on what the booking fee is, because it's £150 plus VAT, which I think at the time was 17.5.
Well, not in the Republic, was it?
Well, how much was it in the Republic then?
I'm not sure.
How much is it now?
In the Republic?
Yeah.
I'm not sure. It was 20% here.
It is 20% here. Is it not like 15 or something in the Republic?
It depends what it is.
Well, this is. Well, how would you class this? What would this be, a service that requires value added to it?
It was definitely a service.
Yeah.
You're pretty much providing a maid to come around and
just for
whack you with a branch. Which I'm sure a lot of people would pay for.
Well, exactly what I was saying. That's actually quite cheap for a dominatrix.
And for 40 days as well.
Yeah, fucking hell.
That's pretty reasonable.
They're selling so short. I mean, fucking hell. But so what would the booking fee? Let's assume it's 20% then, just for ease of maths. £150 plus VAT.
20 quid booking fee.
Fucking hell. See, they always just add these little figures on. Right? But Ted says £200. I'm trying to buy cocaine. So they love cocaine on the island.
Or crack.
Yeah. Well, of course, that's just another way of getting cocaine. So there is some problem. I think Tom's got a nice little number getting cocaine on the island somehow.
Yeah, definitely.
But we'll probably discuss that again soon. But we're going to play another.
How many times has Tom appeared so far?
He's had 3 appearances, so I think he'll show up once more. But the last one was when the rabbits, when he tried to
exterminate them.
He tried to take care of them like Al Pacino there. But then we see Sober Jack, and it is pretty traumatic for him.
Well, I'd like to note as well the makeup department's job.
We're in South Central here, and we have sirens go past the window. So again, sir.
The makeup department had done a great job on Jack in this episode, because he looked disgusting.
He looked awful, and his teeth and everything, and his hair, and the whole.
I remember watching it was like the 15-year anniversary thing. They had the writers and most of the cast meet up, and one of them was saying that you didn't want to sit beside him, Frank Kelly, at breakfast if he'd had his makeup done, because there'd be like bits falling off him and stuff. And I just thought, that during this episode it looked horrible. Yeah, imagine just sitting over your fry on your paper plate, and then Frank Kelly sits down beside you, what you hope is fucking dandruff lands on your plate, lands on your dinner, and you're like, oh god. There's like yellow stuff seeping out his ears.
Oh, horrible. But so he has a tough time, and clearly his drinking has a lot to do with the fact that he's been castigated to this island.
This fucking island.
Don't tell me I'm still on this fucking island. So, like, he doesn't actually remember their names. Hey, you! I think that was sampled, by the way, in Avril Lavigne's big hit, Girlfriend. Hey, you! I don't like your girlfriend.
But they sampled it directly from him, but auto-tune, and
that
was it.
Just a bit of studio wizardry, and I think they own quite a lot of royalties now, back payments.
You petitioning for Frank Kelly to be on the show?
Well, I've already started. Changing.
It'd be a bit hard for him to be on the show.
Yeah, true. But Mrs Doyle goes off to her pilgrimage to Croagh Patrick. This is actually a real thing. But it's not the one that I'm most familiar with. The one I always heard my granny and all used to go to was Loch Derg.
Yeah.
Do you any?
I have a few family members who've been to Loch Derg. It appears to be like water and dry toast you get.
That's the main food you get all week or something. So when Ted's handed a bowl of water, that's a pretty fair reflection of what.
But she's not going to Croagh Patrick. She says St Patrick's Hill.
Yes, but he then said it was a mountain.
Yeah.
So Croagh Patrick is a mountain, and there is a pilgrimage to Croagh Patrick, which was at its peak was getting 20,000 people. Trekking
so is there like a licensing thing where they couldn't say Croagh Patrick? Can you say Croagh Patrick?
Well, I mean, I was about to say it's Crown copyright, but it's not Crown copyright because it's in the Free State. Yeah. So what's the equivalent down there? But what's the equivalent to the Ordnance Survey down the south? But I don't know why they wouldn't just say Croagh Patrick.
Who knows?
Yeah, but it was getting about 20,000 people trekking up it every year. which was actually doing considerable damage to the environment of the mountain.
So all those people going up with no socks and being chased back down with a plank.
With a plank, yeah. Well, the stories always were that you had to go up uphill in bare feet on stony ground, and that was your pilgrimage, just to bring you closer to God. I hope it's nice and miserable, as Mrs Doyle said. But it was given such bother to the environment. I think they actually stopped it in 2015. Their last pilgrimage. So who knows where those poor pious ones are going to go?
Lochderg.
Lochderg is going to have a field day now.
Lourdes.
Yeah. Well, they'll have to jack up the price for Lourdes as well. But
I remember going to, what's the one with the airport called?
Knock,
yeah.
I was about to bring up Christy Moore early in the episode, in this podcast, and I'm going to bring him up again because he has a song called Knock.
About Knock Airport.
About Knock Airport.
Yeah.
What happened to you in Knock?
I just remember there being lots of holy water bottles being filled up, and
that's all I remember.
Yeah.
It's like we went there. Now I don't know if there's a season for Knock. Knock is another pilgrimage town in Ireland, by the way. But I don't know.
I wouldn't say pilgrimage town.
Well, another place where a vision has appeared.
Yeah.
What was the vision in Knock?
It was Mary, I believe, the Virgin Mary.
Oh, okay, right. So so that's one of the big ones then.
Yeah.
So Christy Moore wrote a song about somebody who decided to build an airport in Knock.
It's a true story.
It is a true story. It's a
the Irish government built an airport at Knock.
And I've never seen America like an airport up in Knock. Because there's absolutely no other earthly reason to put an airport in that town.
No, there is not.
It's like a town of about maybe 300 people, and all of them are just selling bottles of holy water.
Yeah.
And that's all they're doing.
It's a good business, though.
Well, exactly.
You're literally bottling water.
Yeah. But we have the return then of Sister Assumpta, who's been sent by the Matty Hislock Clinic. Now, she has showed up before in the episode
with all the nuns.
Yes, God Created Women. And she was very unimpressed by Ted's speedy recital of mass.
Mm-hmm.
So she appears to have forgiven him anyway, but she's not quite as fanboyish as she was in that episode. But Dougal, as we mentioned, couldn't remember, despite the adventures he went through, which included going to Kildare, getting arrested accidentally, setting the police station on fire.
Well, the police station goes on fire.
Oh yes, okay, that was accusatory. The police station went on fire. He gets taken away in a helicopter. He falls out of the helicopter and into what I can gather is into a tiger pit.
Yeah, into the zoo.
Into the zoo with
the tigers.
Yeah, very adventurous.
Which is actually quite relevant today.
Today, because the tiger.
Some wildlife park in China, a woman got out of her car and was mauled by a tiger.
Today, isn't today?
This very day, yes.
Fucking hell. What, she got out what to...
You know, like one of those drive-through wildlife parks?
Safari parks?
Yeah. Apparently she was having an argument with somebody in the car and got out.
And then suddenly...
A tiger jumped out and mauled her.
She should have been wearing Dougal's blue jumper.
She should have been, yeah.
Yeah. So
I have some issues with Dougal's forgetting. I think maybe some concussion was had.
Well, that's actually a good theory. My theory was going to be that he's repressed all these memories because they're quite traumatic, and suddenly he's been triggered.
Yeah. Falling out of a helicopter, though, you'd think you'd bang your head.
Well, exactly. And
you should talk to NFL players and
see what's happening to his inner cranium.
Or wrestlers.
Wrestlers more
attitude era wrestlers.
That was more steroid abuse, wasn't it?
That was all the headshots from the chairs.
Oh yes, of course, yeah, because they're hitting.
Apparently, that's what was wrong with Chris Benoit.
Yeah, right. But
he had the mind of a 70-year-old Alzheimer patient or something like that. The brain off.
But when he committed his murders, he was
his double murder suicide.
His double murder suicide, yeah, that rolls off the tongue quite nicely, doesn't it? When he did his double murder suicide, he was actually active though. He was booked to be wrestling the next week or something.
Yeah, he was still wrestling.
So how did they not pick this up, or was it just a serious flaw all over the place? Was it?
I don't think they were looking for it back then.
Well, possibly, yeah. But
plus, to be a wrestler, you have to be a bit off the wall anyway. So.
Well, it's the lifestyle they have because they're
constantly traveling.
Yeah, and
paid not much and
no health insurance. Just.
They're basically self-employed, aren't they? That's how they.
Yeah, and
no employment rights.
And yeah, they don't have a family. They're not settled. They're constantly trying to juice up because they can't keep up with gym requirements if they're
and health requirements of
Yeah.
getting battered and bruised every week.
Yeah. Yeah. Three times a week, you're falling 20 feet off a ladder and
Yeah.
through. Oh my God! Through a table.
He just broke him in half.
As God is my witness. Good God Almighty, it's broken now. That's a Jim Ross quote for one podcast.
No such thing. No such thing.
we'll have to get onto the Jim Ross podcast first. But every time they go to the mainland, they seem to run into difficulties with Garda, as we'll find out in season 3 as well. And it's the second fire that Dougal's been involved in after the Black Rock incident. So
you think he's a pyro?
Well, evidence is starting to mount. Like. So Sister Assumpta's regime is very like a boot camp. She gets them up at 5 a.m. every morning to start their day's punishment, as we said, with an air horn. Now that's a very 90s thing that you'll very often find on the terraces of Clonus and other GAA grounds.
Would you?
Were you one of the ones that carried air horns back in the day?
Never.
Were you ever standing beside about 10 people?
I've often stood beside people and been harassed.
Well, it was. I remember watching like around 95, 96.
I think the last time I was at Clonus was like last week, 2 weeks ago.
2 weeks ago, yeah.
Last week. But yeah, they've got these ones now where you like pump just air yourself,
right?
And it makes a tooting noise, and I wouldn't say they're as loud as the propeller-based ones, but they're still pretty loud.
Right.
And they're selling them like directly outside the ground.
But they were selling the air horns outside the ground as well.
Yeah.
Back in the day. But there were like every time a point went over, even if it was a free kick, an easy 20-yard free kick.
Ugh.
There was still
worse than a vuvuzela. Worse than the vuvuzela.
Well, I was about to say that. Yeah, they're still complaining on the BBC radio. I was listening last week about the vuvuzelas from the.
But the thing about them was it was a constant drone. It was just. There was no like celebrating anything. It was just a constant throughout the match. Yeah.
I'm sure that's the way they celebrated. If you ever watched the African Cup of Nations before or after that, that's the noise you expected to hear. And it was noise. It was atmosphere.
It was noise.
Well, if you go to the Emirates Stadium, which I have been at, and watch Arsenal play, you could be watching a friggin' table tennis match or something for so quietly. It's deathly quiet.
Yeah. You get your chance, though.
I went to Crystal Palace Stadium,
which is what you don't get at Gaelic football. No chanting.
No chance. Well, I have actually seen.
Apart from the ultras.
Who's the ultras?
There's now like Tyrone ultras who go around singing songs. There's like a group of about 20 people. I've seen them at all the matches.
What do they have a sector of the stand or something? Of the Jerry Arthur stand or something?
They don't have a section. No, not the Jerry Arthur stand. They don't have the money to go in there.
I went to Crystal Palace's ground, and the atmosphere there was incredible.
It's because it's tiny, though.
Well, that does help, and the fact that the roofs sort of reflect the sound inwards towards the pitch.
Yeah.
But there was two sets of, if you want to call them ultras, on one side of the stand and the other behind the goal, and they were just chanting to each other back and forth, and it was friggin' amazing. Like I was in the middle of one side of them. I was in the home end, even though I was away. I'm an away fan. It was an Aston Villa match. But yeah, it was friggin' amazing.
It depends what team you're going to support and who they're playing.
Well, I mean, I've heard a lot that Crystal Palace is the best ground to go to. And it was West Ham, but West Ham's going to be in a big stadium now. So there'll be no atmosphere there because they're about 20 miles from the pitch. So Dougal wants Pop-Tarts, or Frosties, or Lucky Charms, or Sugar Puffs. And Ted genuinely believes that God has delegated certain people to... He doesn't handle those kind of things himself, but he has a general idea. He's got a department for that, I'd say.
He doesn't invent them himself. But he greenlights them.
Yeah, he greenlights the project. and more the better for us all, eh?
Thank God for those Pop-Tarts. Which is also a very 90s thing, isn't it?
Well, I was going to say, when was the last time you had Pop-Tarts? They do still sell them.
They still sell them, but it's not the same.
Yeah. Like they're in Toy Story. When the evil child had to get his Pop-Tarts.
Yeah.
Sit, your Pop-Tarts are ready! And that gave Buzz a chance to escape out the window or something. But
I think it's more of an American thing.
Pop-Tart. Well, yeah, they had a phase over here. Remember Lucky Charms had a phase over here, but they're like £5 a box.
Yeah.
So nobody bought them.
Where's this and that? Is that the cereal place in
London?
London?
In London, Shoreditch, the cereal cafe. Apparently they're opening another one now as well.
Well, there was a place in Belfast that opened up that was
Crisps.
the crisps, crisp sandwiches.
Yeah.
But it didn't last too long.
Well, that was intentionally just a pop-up one.
Was it?
Yeah, that was for. That was actually taking the piss out of the ones in London.
Was it?
Yeah.
Just a pop-up to take the piss out.
Just to show you how fucking stupid you are. I'd be more inclined to go to the crisp one now, I have to say myself.
You cannot beat a crisp sandwich.
Yeah. Northern Tato, as we've already established on the podcast, not that I'd free state check.
You cheese and onion man, or?
Tato, yeah, definitely.
Salt and vinegar doesn't really work on bread for me.
Well, I don't like vinegar.
No?
Salt and vinegar peanuts, which is another thing, or anthema to me. I fucking hate them. But I love I love cheese and onion crisps in a sandwich, yeah. With a nice beer beside it, just to really engulf the flavour in your mouth, and that's a meal for a man. But part of the regime is to have their morning bath, which is an ice bath outside. Ted's bath is absolutely filthy.
It is, yeah. There's literally like pieces of grass on him.
he clearly needed that cleansing. Unless, of course, it's after he gets dragged along the back of a tractor, which is a possibility.
Could be, yeah.
They might not necessarily have done it chronologically.
Filming wise.
Yeah.
But they do imply that the 10 steps are still to come, so.
Well, true, actually, yeah, true. So, well, maybe Ted's just that dirty and needed proper cleansing.
Or they've just found 2 baths in the field, filled them up with water and haven't cleaned them out.
I was going to say, why did they have 2 spare baths just lying around?
I don't know, to water the cows or something.
Well, they did have 1 spare bath I'd seen in a previous episode. I didn't actually bring it up at any point, but yeah, usually they're for feeding livestock. Yeah, but have 2. But Dougal doesn't seem fazed by this. He seems content enough in his ice bath. I think he's an inter-county player of some sort, is it?
and his duck.
His big rubber ducky, yeah. In fact, very little of the regime is fazing Dougal at all. He seems to have a very high confidence to it. He's so part of it, as I said, was dragging them along behind the tractor, getting some tiny
driven clearly by a man. And drag it along, clearly 2 people that aren't.
Yeah. Well, yeah, they may have had to do they weren't able to do their own stunts.
Yeah,
for that one.
clearly.
But they're we haven't mentioned this before. They must have had a very big budget for stuntmen.
Because there's 3 right there.
Well, exactly. And
stuntmen don't come cheap, I guess.
Well, you have to, depending on what the stunt is, you have to get a different stuntman for it.
To driving a tractor, you need somebody who could drive a tractor.
Well, see, that might not necessarily be a stuntman. That might have just been the tractor owner who just didn't want to let anyone else use his tractor.
But then had to be paid to dress up as a nun.
Well, yeah, he'd have to be on screen and his costume time and his wardrobe fitting day, and then your 2 stuntmen there. Then you have your ones that fly through the window. Then you have your ones that fall off suspended benches when Ted falls off the bench and everything.
True.
Like there's some big stunts they put on the show, like very ambitious.
I honestly thought the one going through the window was actually Frank Kelly.
I do, yeah. I think that was him because I couldn't see a cut.
Yeah.
But there has been ones where you've seen it from the outside, and you see Ted come through it, and he gets up in American football gear, so I think that they were able to disguise that as a stuntman. But I mean, yeah, like what other sitcom had that sort of ambition? Did you think of? Like there was none. There was. It showed like what they're aiming at is like, if it's funny enough, we're doing it.
Yeah.
And if we can make it funnier, we're definitely doing it. Like they didn't hold back, and it's great. Somebody I haven't mentioned on the podcast, Lisa Evans, who's their producer, who was doing a great job to actually bring what was on their page through the screen to the final product line.
Yeah.
So big props to Lisa Evans, who spells her name with 2 S's, which I've never seen before.
Well, apparently Linehan's scripts are very detailed in set and scenes.
So
it's not just dialogue.
It's very stage direction heavy.
Yeah.
I see. I'll have to get. They do have the script books on sale.
Do
I'll have to get them at some point soon. Hopefully before the end of the podcast.
Worth the investment.
Yeah, exactly. They also have.
Was that like Channel 4 website or something?
Where they can buy them.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure they're in bookshops. I'm pretty sure if you went to Big Easton's in Dublin, you'd probably get it. Available in all good bookshops. Other bookshops are available, of course.
Like Waterstones and.
Well, don't mention them because they want them to give us texts.
Well, you have to mention them all now because you mentioned one.
Oh God, right. But yeah, there's Chinese burns. There is the stoning with what looks like coal.
Yeah, it was definitely cool.
Well, at first I thought it was turf clods of turf, but at point blank range, like no further than I am from you, like.
Yeah.
And the temptation of the feast with a big turkey in front of her.
Well, the Chinese burns was.
Is that the worst one for you? Do you think?
It wasn't the worst one, I'd say, but clearly wasn't the worst one for Dougal.
Yeah.
He only got upset when he got pushed afterwards.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
She even tries to bite him.
Yeah, and it doesn't faze him. So maybe Dougal is actually a prophet of some sort. Maybe that's what this whole thing's been missing. He's the only one that actually has the brain power to see through the hypocrisies and everything. He's the only one that has actually got the message. He's the only one that's got the willpower to get through these tests. If he was in Scientology, he'd be outranking Tom Cruise by now. Like.
No. He doesn't have the money to outrank Tom Cruise.
But they bump him straight up. Like if you do the wee,
you have to pay. You have to pay for it.
You have to pay for the test.
Pay to go up your levels.
Well, yeah, you're. What is it? Cumulative, is it?
Yeah. Eventually, you get a briefcase with a letter from L. Ron himself.
Signed in person.
Signed. Yeah.
And finally is the bed of bricks, which Dougal again had the foresight to actually take his blankets off, so he didn't actually break his back like Ted did. So yeah, maybe Dougal's underestimated as the member of the clergy.
He's some kind of prophet.
Yeah.
Is that what you're saying?
That's what I'm thinking.
Either that or he just has no nerve endings.
Yeah.
Or they've ceased to work.
Well, he has felt pain when he was holding a teapot that Ted gave him once. Ted. I'm in real pain, Ted.
He just doesn't show the pain.
Yeah, well, exactly. He's a superhuman. And we get a phone call to Larry Duff. Now, Larry Duff, he's clearly on the Craig Island version of Saturday Night Takeaway or something, or the Cube or something like that, because he's doing a steady hand game where you have a little wire. What would you call that? So every time the hook makes contact with a wire, it buzzes.
Yeah.
And that's you out. And he's about 3 inches from the end when he gets a call, which of course makes him jump and it ruins his concentration.
A chance to win £10,000.
£10,000, which is no.
It's not to be sniffed at.
Exactly, yeah.
Especially in '96.
Well, yeah, that'd be worth nearly £9 grand now.
Post Brexit.
But he doesn't actually answer the phone this time, and he clearly gave Ted a message not to phone him. Because he must be getting really pissed off with this phone.
This mobile phone, yeah.
Which Ted got him, by the way.
He needs to get rid of the phone, I think.
Well, he's probably getting really sick of fucking Ted at this point. And you think Ted would start taking a hint?
I don't know, back in those days, was there like a call log so you could see who rang you?
Well, did the number come up on the phone? Like, did he have caller ID?
Well, these old brick phones, they might have had like a call log, so he wouldn't have seen that it was actually Ted.
Yeah.
Unless he 1471'd him.
So we wouldn't see it afterwards.
Yeah.
So he's definitely give Ted his what for.
Yeah, definitely. It cost me 10 grand, Ted.
But he's still not dead though. So
somehow.
Yeah. Well, the closest he's been to death is.
Well, there was the car going off the side of the cliff.
Yeah.
Have you seen that one yet?
Yeah, we have. That was his first one.
And so then the dogs.
The dogs. I don't think the dogs would have killed him. They would have mauled him, but not necessarily.
Mauled him to death. There was a lot of dogs there.
Well, there was 4 on screen. He'd bought 12. And we only know for a fact that there was at least one of them, so it might only be one dog.
True.
And with the car going off the cliff, he's tremendous fun, so he would have installed an ejector seat, surely. I mean, come on. It makes sense. It writes itself, like. So, Ted and Dougal decide to get away from this psycho nun that they've checked up with. And they go to Rugged Island, and Rugged Island parochial house is a right. What does Ted say? It's a right dump.
Yeah.
Even though it's just
it's exactly the same at night.
At night, yeah. Just looks a bit different from a different angle. And they walk through. They walk past trying to see if they can get in, and they see that Dick and Cyril and Father Johnson do not have any intention of keeping their Lenten vows, and are smoking and skateboarding and drinking away there. So they come back and they decide to. They find Sister Sumta has been scoffing on the Easter eggs that John and Mary brought them.
Yeah.
So they send her off to Dick and Cyril, etc., and to give them their what fors. But then after this, when the story's concluded, we have our first actual post-credits joke, which is it's not really a thing in British TV at all. Like it's a thing in American TV. The reason is because they have an ad break for the credits, so they have a post-credits joke for anyone who sticks around through the ads.
To make you stick around through that.
Well, to give you a reason to.
Yeah.
Because there's another 7 minutes worth of ads for your 4 minutes of entertainment. Yeah. They've got the balance all wrong in America. Like I'm sure you've seen.
I've seen The Daily Show, where they come back for
moment of zen.
Yeah.
And it's literally about 30 seconds.
Yeah. You come back from like a 3-minute ad for 30 seconds.
Well, I remember being in America and Friends was on, and I'd never seen this before, but they have a joke at the start before the cold open joke, and then they'll put the credits, and then they'll have an ad, and then the episode starts, and within about 5 minutes they have an ad, and then another ad, and then they have ad after the credits. And it's like, Jesus Christ, lads, calm down.
There is a lot of ads.
Whereas over here there's just one
break in the middle. Yeah,
which is the writers write around, as in like they'll write a joke or a cliffhanger into the ad break, and then that'll be it. So it must be torturous watching TV in America.
Or trying to script it.
Well, yeah. Like every 4 minutes there has to be a freaking cliffhanger. Like it just makes. So I think that was contributed to why, right up until the late 90s, pretty much until ER and The West Wing, that American drama was shite on TV because they build
for their all 4 minutes to a cliffhanger.
Yeah, exactly. So until like you had shows like ER and that sort of thing. Yeah. And then The Sopranos, obviously, when they had no ad breaks, is when they actually started.
That's why HBO is much better than
all the rest.
All the rest of them.
Well, I think it's losing it's lost its pedestal now. I think a lot of stuff is caught up with it. Like AMC have a big claim to make now.
Is it not pay-per-view as well, though?
I don't know. I don't know how American TV works in America, because there's cable, there's basic cable, there's premium cable, there's network television, there's syndicated television. There's like, why not just have 4 channels and then Sky? Keep it simple, stupid.
Or 6 channels.
Or 6 channels, of course. Yeah.
Before TV3 came out.
And Channel 5.
That new boy in the block.
Gigi Carr and Gigi Carr is probably the one I miss most, actually, because you get the Gaelic highlights with proper analysis. Osciaga.
Yeah. Because you could understand it.
Well, they have subtitles, thankfully. But Mrs Doyle comes back and there's smoke billowing from under the door, and it's because
there's a fire.
Well, not because there's a fire for once, even though Dougal's involved. Ted's actually literally chain smoking a line of cigarettes that goes the entire length of the table with 4 in his mouth at one time.
Oh, it's more than 4, I think.
Is it more than 4?
Yeah.
Right. Dougal comes swinging past her in his rollerblades.
He doesn't even take the time to take the cigarettes out of his mouth to say hello to her. He just puts his hand up and waves.
so he doesn't actually want to open his mouth in case they fall out. Yeah. And then Jack, as we've mentioned, the drinks cabinet, he's got 5 bottles of spirits.
One looks like it is IV style into his hand.
I didn't notice that.
There's like a wee, what do you call those wee plastic things that they put into your vein?
Your IV, your intravenal. So
he's got one of those on his hand.
So they did that before Always Sunny, then?
I guess so. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, Always Sunny.
Well, they would have had to, wouldn't they?
Yeah. But 5 optics of whiskey going straight into him. So but did you notice the music that was playing?
I did not know.
It became known as, well, it was Comanche or Comanche, I don't know how to pronounce it. It was a surf rock tune that became famous in Pulp Fiction and became known as Bring Out the Gimp.
There's a few Pulp Fiction references throughout Father Ted, isn't there?
Well, this is one I picked up on. Was there any others you can think of?
In earlier episodes, I remember reading somewhere that they were both fans of it, and
I would imagine they would have been. Yeah, like it would have been still raw back then, like relevant. Yeah, well, it's still relevant. Like it's still. What was that? We shit. It's still an immensely watchable film.
That is, yeah.
It's still huge. Like there's nothing. It's not.
But can you imagine when that came out? Like there was nothing on.
Yeah, exactly. It would have just
nothing like it.
Blow in the water. like blowing everything out of the water. Like, what was the edgiest film in 1993? Like,
My Girl.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And then next year you have the guy from Greece shooting up heroin in a car while driving. Like, and then Uma Thurman, you're all from. I was about to say Batman, but that was after it. But
that was post.
Yeah.
Post fiction.
Yeah, post fiction. Yeah. Yeah. So she has a freaking heroin overdose, and then you're all from The Commitments. Is sitting there with.
And you have a gimp.
And you have a gimp and a male rape.
Male rape, yeah.
With a death by
sodomy.
Yeah. Fucking hell. Mental. What do you think of the episode then?
You forgot to mention one thing.
Okay, yes, let's hear it.
The singing nun.
Oh yes.
And Ted is clearly has like disparaging remarks down the phone, and she can hear him.
Yeah.
She just continues singing.
She ignores him.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, I remember, when you were put on hold, and I've never really experienced it before. I was like, who's playing that music? So
did you think that somebody just put the phone down beside like a
There
radio?
was a speaker playing the music out. And they had the full call center set up in the convent as well, which was call centers wouldn't have been a very big thing back then that I would be aware of. Like, maybe travel agents would have had call centers and Ticketmaster and that sort of thing. They wouldn't have been as prevalent as they are now. Like, where
every other building has one in it.
Well, yeah, exactly. I was about to say every other town, but yeah, it is getting close to that. Where every big building with a big
every big building that needs to be leased out.
Yeah, that has a big corporate logo outside it in a small parochial town. You can guarantee it's a call center almost. But well, what do you think of the episode overall?
Solid.
I think it was solid. I don't think it was spectacular.
No, it wasn't the best episode, but it definitely wasn't. It wasn't bad. Like, it was.
Yeah. I mean, last week we had Len's Rabbits episode, and 2 weeks ago we had Len's Rabbits, and I was really looking forward to it. And when I watched it,
it let down.
We think it might have been one of the worst episodes overall. That when the idea of the episode sort of settled in, there was not much else to it.
Yeah.
And but this is definitely, it's not one of the worst by any means. It's solid. It wouldn't be a top 5 contender. We have about 7 or 8 contenders so far, and there'll be more coming up in next week, and series 3 there'll be a few more, but this isn't one.
Maybe not.
In season 3.
Season 3, yeah.
Oh, there's a few good ones in season 3. There's a few duds in season 3, but
it's mostly duds.
Nah. Right. Well, we'll discuss that when we get to season 3. But
bring me back for your post analysis.
Well, what I'm going to do, I've decided, is going to have I'm going to get to each episode. So we're going to have an episode especially for the last episode, our podcast especially for the last episode, and then also after that, then a roundup episode where we round up everything, and I do really the top 5, and then another episode for the Christmas episode. So, but a few to go yet. But so that all will be revealed. But Lent, now, as I said, when we were kids, we were sort of forced to go off sweets, and if you're still religious when you're an adult, you went off drink for a while. Even though you got your license on Paddy's Day to disregard all of that. Yeah,
and Sundays.
So like, it wasn't really that much of a sacrifice if you truly want to fucking if God is that narcissistic, he needs you to make these sacrifices, you're not fucking indulging him very well. On the other hand, if you're Muslim during Ramadan, they don't eat during daylight hours.
Yeah.
And it's not just...
and it was like the longest one this year because it's during the summer.
Well, exactly. I was about to say, I've never heard it this early. Like, the earliest I'd ever seen it since I became aware of this, which was back in uni. I got to know quite a lot of Muslims, but the earliest that I'd known it was August. Even August, sunsets at like 10 o'clock or something, and sunrise is about 5. But yeah, it was in the middle of June, so it's the hardest time of the year. Yeah. So they're not eating from 12 midnight. Well, from 6 in the morning to 12 midnight, they cannot eat. I'm not even sure.
Well, they can eat.
Well, yes, they have the.
They have the ability to eat.
The motor skills to put food into their mouth.
They're not meant to eat.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, and that is actual sacrifice.
That is hard going.
Yeah, and that's just the.
I get very cranky after missing one meal. Never mind not eating up until.
Yeah, if I don't have breakfast, I don't feel right at all day.
Yeah.
whereas you're going all day without eating. And yeah, it's like, so come on, up your game, fucking Kenyans, would you? Catholics.
But as a child, giving up sweets, that is a big sacrifice. Like, if you're actually doing it.
Well, I mean, it's probably just a sign you're eating far too many fucking sweets, or you're throwing too many sweets at your child to shut them up, which is a fucking stupid fucking logic, because all it does is give them a load of sugar energy, a sugar rush, and they're going to be even louder. It's like, you know, I've seen people, you know, somebody's been a real fucking pain in the arse drunk, and so what's your solution? Here, I'll get you another drink, sure. It's like, Jesus Christ, man, that's the fucking last thing he needs.
You come back down with a glass of water then?
Well, the only time I have given vodka, in fact, somebody's done that to me. We were in a pub in Oma, and somebody had ordered shots, but the barman said, I'm not giving him vodka, I'm giving him water. And I couldn't tell the difference anyway, so it was of no consequence. It was probably for the best, so, you know, responsible bar staffing there by Bobins in Oma. But
there's free advertising there.
But yeah, as you said, it wasn't a spectacular episode, but you know, did the job, and as you said, a solid episode is much better than a...
Well, a solid Father Ted episode is still a good...
Well, we were saying a bad Father Ted episode is still a good sitcom episode.
Yeah.
So this is, you know, it's going to be miles ahead of your run-of-the-mill.
I mean, there's none that you would actively avoid if it was on TV. When they're showing the reruns, you don't go, oh, I'm not watching it.
I have had one where I do avoid it. It's the Victor Meldrew one, the mainland.
Ah, yes.
But you know, I'm going to come
with Graham Norton.
With Graham Norton coming back, and that's not the reason. It's actually Victor Meldrew is the reason that I fucking hate it. But you know, I'm coming back to it now, having been away for.
Well, I actually do like the Graham Norton character. I think he's hilarious.
Yeah. The character is great.
Yeah.
It was just, well, see, when it came out, and I'll explain this more when we do the podcast. But when it came out, it's like. That sitcom was everywhere.
Yeah.
One foot in the grave. It was like.
I still remember the theme tune.
It was the wee tortoise going around everywhere, and it was just such a fucking middle of the road non-event of a sitcom that BBC One viewers loved, and Radio Times and Daily Mail. I hated it. And
nothing stands out from the show apart from his catchphrase.
The catchphrase, yeah.
It's like the Ricky Gervais extras. His.
Yes, when the whistle blows.
Yeah. When the wind blows.
Is that what it is?
No, it's when the whistle blows, but Stephen Merchant's character calls it when the wind blows.
I think there is a TV show now called When the Wind Blows.
Is there?
Or a film or something. It's like nobody made that connection yet. But yeah, so that sort of put my defences up already towards the episode, so that might have coloured it a wee bit, so I'll come back to it and see if it does. But that just means that...
You just fast forward through the...
Well, exactly, that's what I'm going to say. It just means that the episode is now horribly dated.
Yeah.
Because somebody watching that now has no idea what that's about, or how annoying that was, and how annoying it must have been for Richard Wilson who played Victor.
Yeah.
But we'll come to that in the episode. But thanks very much for coming down, Turby. You're
welcome.
One of my solid fans. My fam. So how's Pokemon Go going?
It's going.
How many eggs have you hatched now? You're walking.
I don't know.
Yeah.
Teens. It's in the teens.
It's in the teens. Well, a bit of a life pro tip there for Pokemon Go fans. If you want to really hatch your eggs,
walk.
Well, get a job in catering, like be a waiter or something, because you'll be walking about 11 kilometres every day, and that'll hatch about 4 eggs or something.
Yeah. Well,
does it go up every
you
time?
get 2 kilometre ones, 5 kilometre ones, and 10 kilometre ones. So and the more you have to walk, the rarer the Pokemon is when they hatch.
Right. But yeah, thank you very much for listening. We'll be back next Sunday, as we always are, just in time for Mass. And bless you.